Hello everyone, welcome to our FPL Under the Radar Game Week 5 preview video. This is your host FPL Kante. I'm here with my buddies FPL Wrangler and ZD. How are you doing, Wrangler?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Excited that Premier League is back.
That's true. Yeah. Basically, after the international break, there's going another some sprint until the next international break, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, looking forward to it.
Yep. Yeah, definitely a lot of football in the next few weeks alongside Premier League as well. Right? So we'll talk about that as well, the fixture congestion. ZD, how are you doing?
Yeah, doing good. And I think we have less than 6 hours for deadline, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's dive in.
All right, let's get in there. So again, I mean, we have covered a whole lot of things during the international break. If you don't follow us on Twitter, please do. APL Under the Radar. Follow us, our individual accounts as well while you are at it. We have already done our Game Week 5, or basically Game Week 1 to 4 review video with all the data analysis. So if you want to take a look, please do. We'll try to at least do a review video and a preview video for each of the game weeks going forward. So look forward to that as well. Subscribe to our channel so that you get notified when we are going live and so on. So with that being said, let's start talking about the fixtures first. Again, as I was saying, so there are a lot of football coming our way after the international break. Of course, we have 4 more game weeks for Premier League until the next international break. There is Europe coming, including Champions League and Europa and the Conference Leagues for some of the PL teams, and also there is domestic league action too. So Wrangler, you want to talk us through a little bit about the fixtures for at least these ten teams that we are seeing on the screen?
Right. Yeah. We sorted out only these teams because out of these 10, 8 are playing Europe, and rest of the two like Tottenham and Chelsea are like their assets are interesting. So we thought to focus on the fixture of these teams for the next 4 game weeks. So as you can see, there are, and also as Kante mentioned, that there are a lot of football, right? I think it's only 22 or 23 days, and I think those who are in Europe, they are playing. I think 7 or 8 games. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 7 games. So basically, like around on an average 2 to 3 games uh, in every sorry in every 2 to 3 days there is a game, right, for each game, for each team. So starting with Man City, they're starting tomorrow, playing with West Ham. It's away game, and then they are having UCL tie on September 19th, which is just 2 days from the West Ham game. Then after that, their fixture, there are 3 days gap, as you can see here. So here, the color code we put, like the red is basically 2 days gap, and if there is 3 days gap, it's an orange, and if 4 days gap, then it's very good, like decent gap. So it's yellow, and basically if it's more than 5 days gap, it's green. So for Man City, I think after the UCL tie, in the on 19th September, I think it's decent, but then they're having Carabao Cup later on 27th September, and then as you can see, like they're playing Orbs. So only at that time, I think it will depend like what Pep is gonna basically prioritize. So if it is like if they prioritize the Newcastle game, then we might see some rotation in the Wolves game. For the West Ham game, also players like Alvarez might get rest. I mean, he was traveling in the international break, and then they will need him in the UCL game, right? So there is a chance that he might be rested, or and at least the minutes might be less. So there might be a leak for Man City. So definitely, we might get some news before the deadline. Then Arsenal. They are basically having a Everton game this game week, and then they are playing PSB after 2 days, right? Basically 2 days game, so 2 days gap, so after 3 days. And then they are playing Spurs, right? So there is a decent gap there between PSB and Spurs game, and then Brentford game is the Carabao Cup. So I think there will be like the like main will be main 11 will probably be rested during that time, and then Bournemouth, and then the Lens game, right? So UCL. So Bournemouth game is actually sandwiched between the Brentford and the UCL game, right? So if we expect that in Brentford game in the Carabao Cup, like Arsenal players might be rested, then I think they actually play Bournemouth game and probably Lens game as well. So basically there will be some sort of rotation or X minutes concern for the Arsenal assets, especially like Martinelli and others. So we have to see. Man United actually, like, there's nothing to say probably because basically they don't have a depth, right? And there are a lot of injuries there, so I think there's nothing to discuss here. But again, as you can see, right, that there are some fixture congestion in between. Newcastle actually, I thought the congestion actually looked like it looks very bad, but actually apparently it's not very much. I mean, after this game week, I mean, yeah, they are playing Milan in 2 days, but after that, right, if you see they are playing Sheffield, there are 4 days gap, and then Man City in the Carabao Cup, right? So basically, I don't know which game they're gonna prioritize. So um, just between Man City and Burnley, between these two games, I think there will be some rotation. But after that, again, PSG game, there are 3 days, and then after that, 3 days gap for West Ham. So I think Newcastle assets, we were worried about like congestion, but I think probably they should be okay given or expecting if they give rest to players for the Carabao Cup. But again, that's versus Man City, so I don't know which. I think they will probably uh, prioritize the league. I don't know. We'll see. Again, then next, all the Europa, either UCL the conference or Europe conference, and also Europa, like Liverpool, Brighton, Aston Villa, and West Ham, right? Those are all Thursday game, and as you can see, it's all red. Basically, they'll have only 2 days turnaround during that time. So Brighton, especially, like, I mean, I was talking to you, right? You guys, that I have a narrative here that, as you can see, right, the Bournemouth game. Basically, they are playing Man United in this game week, which is not a, I mean, attacking wise, it's a good fixture, maybe, but defensively, it's not, right? I think Man United away, they should concede. And then the Bournemouth game is in sandwich between the like Athens game and Chelsea game, right? So I don't know which. I mean, if they give priority in the Carabao Cup game, Bournemouth game might be the one where people are players like Estupinian or others might get rest, or the X minutes might be lower. So I don't know, that kind of put me off from Estupinian a little bit, but I don't know what do you think about. And then Villa, also I mentioned in one of the tweet, right, that they also have fixture congestion. Now they might not have any rotation or less rotation, but again, um, like might be leggy, right? So tired legs might have some issues. So if you are on wild card, probably you should proceed with caution in terms of taking Villa. And others, I think, like Spurs and Chelsea, they are not in Europe, and even Spurs don't have Carabao Cup either. So as you can see, right, they have a very like decent rest, good amount of time, to kind of basically get fresh, right? So that's why I think players from these teams are very, I would say, popular as well. So that's kind of I would say what I want to convey, but I don't know what's your thoughts on this. Anything to add here?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I mean, again, some of the teams, like as you said, I mentioned Newcastle. Uh, that part is kind of unknown to us, right? We have never seen Newcastle in Europe, at least in the last few years. How they will rotate their squad is bigger this year, right? But again, with respect to the popular FPL assets, at least, right? The defenders, namely Trippier, Shar, maybe or the forwards, Isak or Wilson, etc., how they will rotate. So I think, and we have enough time to maybe navigate that a little bit. Of course, their fixtures do turn for better game week 6 onwards. But again, I think we can probably get in a little more information because we jump all in on Newcastle assets, right? Again, Botman is probably out injured. He might be back for game
No,
week
I think in
5.
the press conference today, I think how mentioned
Well,
that, yeah, he probably will be
well,
fit to
no,
start.
he
Yeah,
didn't say he will be back. He said he might be back. So
might be. Yeah.
there is a possibility he might be back for game week 5. So anyway, so I mean, long story short is there is still time to kind of navigate what Newcastle do in the next few game weeks, and then decide if you already have Newcastle boys in, just pray and hope that they play these league games essentially, right? Elsewhere, I mean, again, as you mentioned, for Man United, they have a depleted squad anyways. So I don't think there is a huge rotation risk per se. Arsenal could be interesting, but again, I don't really see their attacking options to be rotated a whole lot, right? I mean, we have been suspecting these for the last year or so, especially since Trossard came in. But still, I mean, when they're all fit, Saka, Jesus, and Martinelli are the first choice forwards, right? So I don't see that changing either. I mean, of course, an Arsenal or Arteta generally doesn't like changing things when things are going well, right? So I don't expect a whole lot of changes for Arsenal. City or City, right? I mean, again, hard to know Pep, especially with these new signings. Again, their squad is severely depleted this year. I would expect Foden or Alvarez, like the other popular FPL assets outside Haaland, to play more often than not. I mean, of course, they can get rotated or get benched maybe one in every 3, 4 games. But in general, I would expect them to play a lot of minutes, right? Unless they have maybe KDB back, Grealish feet, and so on, right? They just don't have a whole lot of players to really rotate and still field good teams in these games. So yeah, I mean, otherwise, yeah, I think you covered it well. Z, do you want to add anything else?
No, Wrangler mentioned it well. I mean, I think the only concern how, and you also told about it, like how much rotation we'll see from Newcastle, we don't know yet. And the
Mhm.
Brighton, they always rotate as well. I mean, that is another unknown team. And City, yeah, FPL wise, there will be some rotation, but probably less rotation this time as the squad is depleted. Yeah, and Arsenal is that one is also a little bit unknown, right? I mean, they have a bigger squad, and how they are going to use their attackers like Martinelli. I think Saka is almost rotation proof unless he has some injury scare. Otherwise, he should play most of the game like anywhere. But there could be some rotation there as well.
Mhm, mhm. Yep. Okay. All right. Anything else that you wanted to talk about, Wrangler, in here?
No, we'll probably talk about like assets like Martinelli, like sell buy, but we can talk about it later, I guess. So,
Okay. All right. So let's jump on to our next topic, which is kind of getting there, right? As a good segue, as Wrangler was mentioning. So again, I mean, one of the biggest question, not just this game week, it has been a question for last few game weeks as well. Which midfielders we want to transfer in or out, right? And that's where we are seeing potential gain in EV, gain in value. Defenders are not keeping a whole lot of clean sheets. The forward pool is pretty small as well. It probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense to transfer in and out like the likes of Jackson, Alvarez, Watkins, etc., etc. is very similar. Midfielders are the place where we see those gain potential gains, right? And that's what we're talking about here. So, Z, do you want to walk us through what we are trying to look for here with respect to the next few game weeks?
Yeah, so this is based on game week 1 and 4, 1 to 4 data. So on the x-axis, we are seeing total opponent XGC, like the opponents that one team is going to play from game week 5 to 9, their cumulative XGC. over there, and on the y-axis it is total expected goals per game for a team. So like say for here Starling's um, 2 almost 2 xg, that's represent Chelsea's xg so far, and the opponent XGC is 9.4. So five fixtures, like 5, 6, 8, yes, the five fixtures they are going to play in from game week 5 to 9, they are opponents XGC, like cumulatively it is 9.4, almost 9.4. So according to data, like how the teams are performed like from game week 1 to 4, I mean Sterling, uh, according to these data, Sterling is the clear choice among all the midfielder. I mean, he has the you could say more higher ceiling by far, because of his opponent he's going to play. And then Spurs boys, Madison and Son, although they are going to play with Arsenal, and I think another one is United, right? uh, in six, no, Liverpool. So
Liverpool.
although they are going to play them, but still I think Luton game and Sheffield United game, those for those two game, it's still a good option, if we want to transfer in. Then and then is a, although Crystal Palace their XG is little lower, but their opponents are good, so which put them like in front of like Manu boys or
Mhm.
even Salah, but their productivity is little lower. So there could be a decision need to make, like as generally they score less, but he's the talisman, right? He generates more. So that is one. And then I would say Mbuma and Bruno Rashford, their fixture is kind of same, like upcoming fixtures. It is kind of almost 8.2, and of course Brentford, um, they actually accumulated highest XG from first 4 game week. We need to see like if it sustain like that way in next 5 game weeks, but it's still if you consider that the Mbumi is higher in the chart as well, like with the XG, and his opponent XGC is also not bad. So he's kind of fifth with the fourth with Fernandez and Rashford, and then it's Salah. And here, according to fixture rating, I think due to City fixture, Martinelli, Odegaard, Saka, their fixture, their XGC is actually uh, like lowest ever, like 6.4. Um, if you add all of their XGC
And they're playing Spurs and Chelsea as well until game week 9. So
until gaming time. So yeah, that's why their um,
you can check
according to
them.
this data, seems like the they although they are actually they have 2 xg, but their opponent xgc is not that great. So that's why according to this graph their um, expected performance could be lower. I mean, that's what this is saying, but obviously this is only 4 game week data. So but again, Arsenal is a quality side which can turn around, they can turn around anytime. Yeah, that's how actually it's showing. So the I mean Sterling owners, or like Chelsea asset, I mean those who has, it's only not only for Sterling, even Jackson, like those people who bought Chelsea asset last game week, um it's actually because of the fixture it shows. And they can actually um, easily hold their assets, and there could be a good upside or good point might come in next 5 game weeks. And same thing is like for a Spurs asset, they are actually good transfer in, although they have two tough fixtures, um, but they are not bad buy actually. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, and probably the biggest talking point this game week is whether or not to buy Son, right? Or
Hmm.
even Madison. A lot of us did buy Madison last game week. Whether it's worth to sell either one of the Man U midfielders or Arsenal midfielder or even like a Sterling for Son, essentially, right? So, I mean, with respect to this data, if you're looking at a longer horizon, right, for game week 5 to 9 for next 5 game weeks, it makes a whole lot of sense, right? If you're looking at a longer run, if you're
Mm-hmm.
not looking to wildcard maybe in game week 8 or 9 time frame, if you want to delay it further, it does make sense, right? Arsenal's fixtures, I think, do get a lot better after game week 9 and so on. So you can maybe buy some of them back and etc. So just looking at this, right? If you are looking at the 5 game week horizon, it does make a whole lot of sense. Now, what about the shorter term? Like if we are looking at, say, for example, the next 3 game weeks, for example, right?
Yeah.
That's where Tottenham's harder fixtures are, right?
Yeah.
In game week 5, 6, and 7, as you said, before Liverpool and Arsenal. Uh, Again, I mean, you can make argument saying that Liverpool defense is not as good, but even if you look at generic team data, it's not too bad either, right? I mean, even
Yeah.
without Van Dijk and so on, with their new midfield setup, they haven't looked that bad. I mean, we can say that
Mm.
Liverpool is not as good as they used to be, but there are no pushovers, right? You don't expect teams to score like 4 or 5 goals against
No, no.
Liverpool,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
So, and then there is Arsenal away game, right? It's a tough derby. It can go a lot of different ways. It can be a very open match, of course. There is a possibility of that. But again, Arsenal at home wouldn't be any pushovers, right? So that's the tough part of this, right? Whether you want to, how you're looking at it, what your transfer plans are. I don't think there is a clear cut answer, right? So again,
Yeah.
if your transfers are all set, if your team is all set, even if you want to do a little bit of hokey cokey, if you already have Madison, right? That's another conundrum for some people. If you already have Madison, whether or not you want to get Son in, right? And then you have two Spurs midfielders next game week against Arsenal, all of a sudden, right? Away game. Yeah. Game week 5 team will look great. Game week 6 won't look as great, right? With that team setup. So maybe you want to maybe sell Madison in game week 6
Yeah.
for a Foden if you get an early Man City league and so on, right? There are many other options that you can go for in game week 6. That's basically the dilemma, right? How far you are looking into it. If you think that you want to absolutely captain Son, then and there is there potential gain there over captaining someone like Haaland, it's a valid transfer, right? But it's just that, like, how much do you value the transfer over the next 3 game weeks or next 5 game weeks? What is your wild card horizon? It depends on a whole lot of things, right? What your current team setup is, what do you want to transfer in game week 6, right? uh,
Mm.
well, the argument for a lot of people, even for me, is that I don't have a good transfer in for game week 6, for example, right? If I save a transfer this game week, if I don't get in Son, who do I really target in game week 6, right? Like the defenders in general have good fixtures. Even Brighton has a good fixture, right? So Estopinian will have a good fixture. Do I really want to buy in a Newcastle defender as a priority in game week 6? Probably not, right? Do I want to buy a Newcastle forward over one of the midfielders or attacker? Most likely not. So who are we really going to even target in game week 6 if we really save a transfer, right? So that's the conundrum. That's what I have been at least thinking about over the last week or so, whether I can justify. But again, I think given the fixtures for Manu or for Arsenal or for Chelsea, as you said, just looking at these game week, it's hard for me to justify selling any of those guys, right? I can justify buying Son, but I just cannot justify selling any of the other midfielders that we have been talking about, right? Manu, Arsenal, or Chelsea. All of them have very, very good fixtures in isolation, even if you just look at game week 5, right? Even if you're not looking beyond that. So that's my standpoint, right? So if you think that you are okay with buying Son and then maybe getting rid of him, or just keep hold of him for the next few game weeks so that you don't have to play your wild card early, etc., that's okay, right? So it just depends on your team structure. um Wrangler, I mean, we have been talking about, like, in general, like the match up with Sheffield, right? And again, it's all narratives, right? So there is a little bit of narrative that Sheffield being low block, Son may not get as much of joy that he got against Burnley in the last game. Right, Burnley was on the front foot; they were attacking, right? So there was a lot of space for Son to run in. There may not be as much space, right? And then again, there is the Richarlison situation as well, right? He's not scoring enough goals. The coach came out and said that Richarlison will get minutes in this game, even if he doesn't start. Say if he comes on it around like 60th minute or so, that basically would mean that Son shifts back to his left wing position, right? So it's unlikely that he will, even if he starts at number nine, he'll play the whole game at number nine. But what are your thoughts, Wrangler, with regards to Son for this game week and beyond that?
I mean, definitely he's the best buy of this game week. I mean, if you, as you mentioned, right, you covered pretty well that you have to see the horizon, right? That for 5 game weeks, it's kind of probably clear cut that you're getting more than the Manchester United boys or probably Arsenal boys, right? But um, just in game week 6 or 7, it's kind of can become kind of it becomes sketchy because of this fixture of Spurs, right? They're playing two difficult sides. So, but I think like my narrative or my whatever I understand football is that as you mentioned that low block. I mean, Sheffield United probably will play low block, right? And that will not be very much favorable to Son. But again, the Arsenal game and Liverpool game, anything can happen, right? And
Hmm.
usually those are high voltage game, and that's where actually Son excels too. I think those games suits him pretty well. So I think he's a good buy. I mean, again, as you
Hmm.
mentioned, right, that definitely can justify to buy him, but again, at a cost of someone that becomes a tricky one, right? Like home to drop. So um, for me, I felt that Madison suits better for the Sheffield United game, and Son suits better for the next two games, right? Like Arsenal and Liverpool. So that's where my problem is. That okay, I know I want Son, but from 6 and 7, but I want Madison in 5, right? But do I want Son Madison at the cost of Bruno or Rashford in game week 5? Probably not. On the other hand, in game week 6 and 7, do I want Son at the cost of like Bruno or Rashford? Probably not. So that's where actually my dilemma. And I thought, what? I think it's good to I'm not gonna captain Son even if I take it and take him. So I think I'm gonna leave with, at least as of now. I'm thinking to leave with the Man United boys. Hoyland is starting hopefully tomorrow, right? And we'll see if I mean that should help the team. And Brighton is a good matchup for them too because they have been defensively leaky. So again, it might be a classic FPL, right? That Sterling got 19 points just the game before, right? And against Nottingham Forest, people thought he's gonna have a blast. He didn't have any return, right? And that might very happen to Son as well, right? You never know. It's FPL. So but again, in isolation, I think it's a good buy. And now, at what cost? It's just people has to find out in the balance based on their risk appetite or whatever they think. But I think Son, Madison, all Spurs boys are very good from game week 5 and even till game week 9. I think.
Yep.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, United
Hmm.
boys, it's very hard to sell them because if you look at
Yeah.
their fixture, like five out next three games out of four, it's home game, and
Hmm.
two like Brighton, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Brentford, and Sheffield. So I mean these are very good, right? And Rashford, Bruno. Um, you cannot say that Rashford is off form. He cannot score. I mean, Hojulen is coming, and also Rashford is going to the left, and that makes him better asset. And also, if they have better fixture run, he can actually start scoring anytime, and that also makes Fernandez a better asset. If he does some defensive asset, he makes those late run. I mean, before starting, we said that Fernandez is like 98 minutes or 100 minutes guy, right? He will play the whole game. He will make those late run. I mean,
Yeah.
the math. I know that if Arambar, I think he does not start. Still, if Fernandez needs to do some defensive work, still he is a good asset. I mean, he did not become a bad asset as an FPL, I think. I mean, like I want to take Bruno if possible. I want to take him from this game week, but again, who do I sell, right? I have Foden, who is not. I know he might play wide, but I still he plays for Man City, so he will
Mhm.
take all the set pieces. So, but probably in the next week, probably I can buy Fernandes, right? So that might come up. Like if they
Yeah.
looks good, probably I can go to Bruno as well.
Yeah, no, and I don't think people understand how good of a fixture the Brighton game is, right? I mean, again, not just in general, their statistical defensive numbers this season, how open they have been. I think we are forgetting that they have lost Caicedo, right? How big piece he was for them. No matter who they have right now, I think he is a big miss, right? And it feels like that they are just too open in the midfield. There are always chances that opponents are getting to go past them. And as you mentioned, right, it's a perfect matchup for Rashford. And if Rashford is in the goals, very likely Fernandez is involved in one way or another. I think it's just from a matchup standpoint, it is as good of a matchup that Tottenham has against Sheffield, right? I mean, it doesn't sound like that because we see Brighton as a good team, and absolutely they're a great team from an attacking perspective. All right, I think we have to take a step back, make sure that we understand that how defensively leaky they are, right, with their new players and with the players that they lost and so on. They have lost Caicedo and they have lost McAllister, right? So those they both of them were big pieces in their puzzle last season, right? So that's something that we have to keep in mind. And again, I mean, RDZ will eventually figure it out, but I don't think they still have. Of course, Manu back room drama, dressing room drama is a little bit probably uh, kind of something that people make think of as a deterioration from their overall performance standpoint with Sancho's situation, with the Antony situation, and so on. But again, I mean, if Manu score goals, that's what we said last couple of game weeks as well, and happened in the game week 3 2. Both of them were involved, and then of course Ashford scored in the last game week as well. So yeah, I mean, it's just I cannot see any reason why I would want to sell either of the Manu midfielders at least this game week. That's my conundrum. That's my dilemma. All right, so long discussion, but I think good discussion, necessary discussion.
Yeah,
Anything
one thing
else that
that
you guys want to add?
yeah, just again one thing that I'd like to add that like yeah, we couldn't score. That's the thing, right? We actually got chances, by the way, like versus even Spurs,
Mm,
right? So now Man United has a striker, so yeah, definitely something to something adjustment will be there too. But I think narrative would be completely changed if we could have converted some chances. I would say,
mm,
right? And also one thing. Probably people forgot that yeah, there's some recency thing as well, like because they scored 5 goals, right? Spurs scored 5 goals. Son did do hat trick, right? So it's difficult to ignore. But against bigger team like Man United, they actually somewhat struggled. I mean, at least defensively as well, right? So
yeah,
they are playing Arsenal and Liverpool, so we don't know actually how they will play really in those two games. I mean, Sheffield United is a good matchup, but after that, we'll see how it goes. I mean, so I think yeah, I mean it's a very hard call, but Man
yeah,
United
yeah.
could definitely match Spurs well, in next 3 game weeks, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'll be very, very surprised if the Manu midfielders are not the bandwagons in game week 6. I can pretty much bet on that, right? Like people are talking about selling them in game week 5 for recency bias or whatever other reasons. But it'll be very surprising if people are not kind of going to start buying the Rashfords and the Fernandezes of the world in starting game week 6. But anyways, we'll get there. So good discussion on that topic. Let's move on to the wildcard topic. Again, neither of us are wildcarding as of now, at least. But at least a lot of people are thinking about wildcard. Either they did not have a good start to the season, or they thought that they need to restructure their team. They want to get maybe like 7 8 new players. They have good fixtures in the next few games and so on. So that's basically why a lot of people are wildcarding, right? I mean, personally, I would absolutely want to hold on to my wildcard as long as possible because my team looks good on paper. I mean, the results have not been favorable 100%, but at least on paper, it still looks good. Uh, yeah, I mean, wildcard is definitely not, personally not an option for me. But we are again trying to look out for the community. So we're talking about the wildcard, at least people who are on wildcard, just kind of trying to make sure that we can help them as well. So ZD, you want to talk about your wildcard draft a little bit? What was your thought process behind selecting this team?
Yep. So as here you will see some names are missing. The biggest reason is like I don't recommend to play wildcard this game week. I think people are mostly playing because they want to get rid of Chelsea assets, right? And also probably want to have less asset from Arsenal. You and also United. So that's the reason I don't have any Chelsea asset here. And also if I play wildcard this game week, obviously I want some route to have Salah, Villa set in game week 8, 9, or 10 time frame. So that's why it's a mix, it's little different than what we see. Like I went with Ariola and Turner because I did not take any 4.5 million because I wanted to save money, because I think in the long run when I wanted to get Salah, probably that would help me. So and probably Turner might lose the place, but I think Ariella is a good enough keeper to start with. Last for pod we discussed about it, like Ariella being number one goalkeeper, like to start with for any team. I think if he's with 4.1 million goalkeeper, starting goalkeeper with a like same little above average or average team like West Ham, or I mean their defense looks good, right? And I mean and he has like good save potential. Also he saved a penalty. I mean he's a good goalkeeper, so I think it's we can start with him. So that's why I thought Turner and Ariola as a goalkeeper. And I had a little doubt with starting with Chilwell or Trippier, but as I said, probably I would obviously start with Trippier. I don't know if, and it is in place of kind of Chilwell, because if you want to save some money for the future, so Trippier should be here. I mean, I think that's the one. Another reason could be for the wildcard, right? Having two Newcastle defender start with. So, and one of them, if I play wildcard, it should be Trippier. I don't know what will happen in game week 6, 7 about his place, but probably you should start with Trippier. Say if we see that he's rotating, probably you can downgrade him to Shar or any other player. But I think starting with Trippier is makes lots of change. Udoji and is I think I don't need to explain about him, but there could be another option, Poro. He's doing good, but I think me X-Minute wise Udoji is a good one. Um, for I kept it cash, but it could be Moreno or it could be anyone else. But cash, I wanted like Villa defense because their fixture will turn very good later, and that's why I kept cash over here. But I know probably if I play 1 week later game week, probably if I see Moreno starting, I would take Moreno, or if I get a hints that Moreno is starting, probably I would take Moreno. But I think for now cash is fine. But probably it's a booking transfer later, in later say 3 4 game weeks later. And other two defenders are Barn and Kabore, but I think it would be Botman and Kabore rather, because I think Botman, if he does not start this game week, he will start next game week. I will keep him in the bench anyway. And Kabore is obviously for double game week. And also I wanted to go with 4 million defender, as I said. The midfielder, I think it's perfectly makes sense with wildcard: Madison, Son, Bumo, Saka, and Bruno. Mbumo, Saka, Bruno, right? And obviously, as I said, I would pick Bruno because I think like he has more point route than Rashford. So that's why I picked Bruno over Rashford. Saka, obviously, it's kind of no-brainer. Um, he should be there. And Madison, Son, uh, Mboum we talked about. And beside Haaland, I think I would go with Alvarez. I know he's a mid risk this week, but if he's not starting, if I get we get the league, probably I would start with Morris because Morris has Fulham. And obviously, I think with the wildcard, Morris makes lots of sense. He has a good fixture and he is a double game week in game week 7. And Alvarez should be there because I think City has the best, one of the best fixture run, and he should be he should start, right. I mean, as we said, there is not much options in many Man City lineup, and with the deep block, low block teams, he should always play. And we saw what he can do, so I think he's a good option to start with. Like for the wildcard team, yeah, that's the thought. What 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 do you guys think?
I think you explained it pretty well, and you kind of covered that part as well. Is the Chelsea boys, right? Whether you want to start with a Chilwell or a Sterling or a Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
etc., right? At least one or two of them for their good run of fixtures. But again, I mean, if you are playing your wild card, you're most likely playing your wild card to get rid of them, right? So if you are playing your wild card in Game Week 5 anyway, so yeah, that's the only sticking point. Other than I think the players kind of pick themselves, most of them at least. As you mentioned, the Newcastle defenders. I know a whole lot of people are thinking that Newcastle are maybe not as good of a team anymore for whatever reason. But I mean, they're an improved squad if anything, right? They had a very tough run in the first 4 game weeks. All tough teams, all very good teams. So I mean, they were expected to lose points in there, right? No one was expecting them to win all of those games, anyways. So yeah, I mean, don't take all that first 4 games of data into heart and just decide that you don't want it in Newcastle defenders. I think TPR is going to be a fine pick. 6.5 million is probably a little too much, but we'll see. He might just be worth that value. Shar could be an option, of course, like if you want to save some money there at 5 million. And as you mentioned, as the second defender, most likely Botman is great. Botman is fine. The other argument is probably whether you want to start with Salah in a Game Week 5 wildcard,
Yeah,
right? Again, Liverpool's run of fixtures are a little mixed. That their
it's not that
fixtures
bad.
are,
Yeah,
yeah, it's not that bad. From Game Week 9 onwards, it's like absolutely great. Like
yeah,
they have like an unbelievable run of fixtures from Game Week 9 onwards. But before that, it's a little bit of mixed bag. But again, Salah is Salah, right? He has not probably looked like the guy that we expected 12.5 million to be, but he still already has like 30 points in the first 4 game weeks, right? Could have been more if he did not miss that penalty and so on. So again, I mean, in general, I mean, if you are playing a Game Week 5 wild card, at some point you just know that you would want Salah anyways, right? So do you want to start with him or not? It's kind of hard to fit in three of Haaland, Salah, and Son in the same team. You have to make sacrifices elsewhere, and that sacrifice can be maybe like a Trippier to Shar, things like those, right? So smaller sacrifices, but it's doable, absolutely doable if you want to start with Salah. But yeah, I think that's the only point to probably to be made. Whether you want to start with
yeah.
a Salah on Game Week 5 World Cup.
Or could be Bruno can be Salah and Saka can be Diaby, something like that. Like you need to make some compromise if
Yeah, you
you
have to
want to
make
take
some
Salah.
compromises. Yeah.
And I think in game week 6, probably if you want, you can get rid of one of the Madison and Son, and probably take a Sterling or like whoever you want.
Mhm.
Say if you don't want to carry two Spurs midfielder
Right.
like 6 and 7, so that is another option as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Anything that you want to add, Wrangler?
No, you guys covered pretty well. The Salah discussion I wanted to bring, but you already bring it. So
All right. Okay. Let's talk about the matchups for Game Week 5. Wrangler, you want to take us through this? So we can talk about captaincy a little bit here as well.
right. So yeah, I mean we like covered most of them already. During the discussion, but here basically again, what we are showing here that each team's expected goal per game based on the game week 1 to 4 data and their opponents XG considered, right? So if the top right is basically the best matchup, right? That the team's XG is good and opponents like defense is bad, right? And that's where you can see that Chelsea playing Bournemouth. It's a very good matchup. ZD also covered that whenever he discussed about the midfielder discussion, right? Spurs Sheffield, we just spent almost probably 80% of the time talking about them. Man United Brighton, as we talked before, right? It's a good matchup for both of these teams actually, attacking wise, right? Because they are doing the underlying data was good for both of their attacks, but they were conceding chances as well, right? So yeah, I mentioned before as well is that if Man United can justify the chances that they get, then it should be a goal gallery game, right? That's what I expect at least, right? But whether they'll be able to convert the chances, that's a different story. But I think they will get chances. Liverpool, again, that's a good matchup versus Wolves. Wolves conceding chances. Now Trent is ruled out for game week 5 because of the injury, but I think still it should be a good matchup for Liverpool. And Arsenal and Man City, we talked like it's Everton and West Ham. So actually, any game is good matchup for Man City, to be honest, right? But Arsenal versus Everton is a good matchup too. So all the good or like like big teams have good matchup in this game week, and that's why it even made harder to do this clear transfer of this like what we discussed, right, for the Spurs boys. So that's there. Another game is like Newcastle and Brentford, right? So that game is gonna be interesting because both of their attack was were good in last 4 game weeks, right? At least based on the data, and their defense looked good too. Although Newcastle considered goals even in last game they considered 3 goals, but one was like Pope's mistake and another was outside of the box. So there are like at least some silly goals that they considered, but again their defensive number looked good, right? So that's one game I really don't know what's gonna happen, but something to see. And that also kind of give you more information about Newcastle, right? Because there's like after game week 4 we are saying that their fixture is gonna turn in good, and we can assess. Aston Villa and Palace, that's another game also I think it's going to be interesting game because like Villa attack was good, but Palace's defense looked good too, right? So we'll see how the battle looks like. Otherwise, I think it's I don't know. There is nothing to discuss here. I think, but I don't know.
Luton, Fulham, they are in the same quadrant.
Yeah, that's another goal galore game maybe. Both of the teams bad attack.
All or nothing game, right?
Right.
Like it's
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I
a
think
0-0 game.
yeah, but I think Burnley, Nottingham Forest as well. They are also playing against each other. So those are kind of relegation battle type game, right? And both teams
six
will try to
pointers.
win,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So I think those are gonna be interesting game. I think. So yeah, I mean, I think
Okay.
Morris is playing versus Fulham, right?
Yep.
Correct. Yeah.
So something to assess as well. So we'll see
Yeah.
for game week 7. So people
Yeah.
will
It's
have
a good
eyes on
fixture
them.
to kind of monitor
Right.
Morris and
Yeah.
Luton overall as a team, what they do.
Right.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about captaincy here. So for me, I think it's in this order. If you have Son, you captain him, right? Then it's Haaland, then it's everyone else, right? Maybe starting with Salah and then others, maybe Madison fourth, and then whoever else you want to captain, right? So that's the order for me: Son, Haaland, Salah, and Madison, right? What about you guys, ZD? What would your rank be for captaincy this game?
For me, Holland, but I like Son transfer, but Son as a captaincy, I'm not sure. Seems like it's a Madison game, so I mean, Madison also does good actually. This in this sort of fixture. Previously, he
Mm-hmm.
gave when he was in Leicester, he gave like 16 point, 18 points. I remember 1 goal, 2 assists. So he's not a bad shout. But again, Man City, West Ham. I know it's a tough game. Man City
Mm-hmm.
also little depleted, but still we know what can Haaland do. So it's not a FOMO thing. It's like uh, Haaland's capability is very high, right? And also his EO is very high. I mean, I don't think Madison or Son's EO is going to um is not going over 100%, right? So probably
Well,
there
yeah,
is a
but I mean,
potential.
let's keep EO outside, right? I mean, EO is of course important for us in overall as a game, but captaincy in isolation, right? Imagine that all of them has same ownership, right? Just
In
who do you
isolation,
think? Yeah.
I think Madison could match actually
Mm-hmm.
um Haaland, because the fixture is good actually, and I think if Madison get a return as his midfielder, he might get 10 points, right? So 10, 11 points, where Man
Mm-hmm.
City probably say West Ham, yeah, if they just can score one or two goal, it might not be Haaland, because I
Mm-hmm.
mean their defense is good as well, right? So in that sense, I feel like Madison is little ahead for me.
Okay.
Um, but as I said, for your perspective, probably I'll go with Haaland.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about you, Wrangler?
Um, I think I'm with you. I mean, I mentioned that. I mean, I would not probably captain Son. I mean, but in isolation, I think based on this matchup, I think like the ceiling for Son is actually higher. I think I mean, he's an elite finisher, right? Whenever he's in the playing number nine, yeah, definitely Sheffield is gonna play low block, but again, I think he'll get chances, and uh, whenever he get chances, he will convert them. So I think I will be also again the same order that in isolation, if we just remove EO and those stuffs and the matchups, it's Son, then Salah, then Haaland, and then Madison. Those are the. I think that's the rank you also had, right?
Well, I had Haaland in front of Salah, but yeah, I mean, that's close
Yeah.
anyways, probably.
Right. So, but yeah,
Without.
I think that's how it's gonna be. So.
Okay, cool. Good discussion on that topic. Also, let's move on. Uh, all right. So our under the radar pick this week is a little unusual. Again, since we're talking about how the matchup will be, right? Sheffield playing low block and so on. And we have seen that in the past 4 game weeks. Sar didn't start the first game, but he has started all the next 3 fixtures. He did get subbed off early in pretty much all of those 3 games, but he is very involved, right? I mean, he is playing alongside Bisuma, but he's not quite like the traditional six, right? He is more of an advanced eight alongside Madison, sometimes even ahead of Madison in some cases, especially against lower block teams, right? And his numbers also look good, right? It's just not a complete arbitrary selection. Also, people may just say that okay, you're just making it up because you don't want to go with the Son or Madison, but it's not completely that either, right? His per 90 numbers. Again, as I said, he didn't start the first game, so his minutes per game doesn't look that good, 55 minutes. But starting from game week 2, he has been pretty much a fixture for Tottenham's first 11, first squad. Uh, his per 90 numbers again look pretty good, right? So XG per 90 is zero point 0.5, XA per 90 is zero point 0.3. And again, I mean, if someone is playing wildcard, for example, in game week 5, if you want to start with a Salah, he could be a fine enabler, right? I mean, again, he is not the kind of guy that you would want to play as your seventh attacker. He can be your eighth attacker. You can have a three up front system where you have maybe like a whatever Haaland, Alvarez, Morris, or Haaland, Alvarez, Jackson, etc., etc., and you can have Sar as your eighth pick, right? So again, it's just not a complete random arbitrary pick from us. We do really think that he can specifically do pretty well against Sheffield because they will be low block. There will be a lot of chances for him where they will be busy with the other forwards, with the Sons and the Madisons, and he can get easily get in and get one goal here and there, right? So that's basically the justification for this. And even in the long run, as I mentioned, right, he's just kind of a budget enabler for the likes of Salahs and the Sons, right? So that's basically the justification for this pick. May or may not come to fruition right away, but again, over the length of the season, I think he will be one of the guys that we'll look into when we're looking for the bigger like premium guys, more of the premium guys in our teams, right? So that's about it. So I don't think we need to spend more time on this, but Pape Sarr is our under the radar pick for this week. All right, so let's move on to our teams quickly. Um, I will read out my team. So this is my team for this week: Turner, Diaz, Estupinian, Chilwell in the back line, Rashford, Madison, vice captain right now, Mbemo, Bruno Fernandes, and Saka in midfield. And in the forward line, I have Nico Jackson and Haaland. I do not plan to make any transfers. I mean, of course, as I said before, I did at least think about it whether I want to move out Rashford or Bruno, more likely Rashford to Son. I also thought about a potential defensive transfer, either a Henry or Kabore to Udogi for this game week at least, play him against Sheffield. But again, I mean, does that really justify benching Estupinian? Not for me, right? I mean, even if Brighton does concede, they will likely concede against Manchester United, right? But even if they don't keep a clean sheet, I see him coming away with a uh, goal or assist pretty easily, right? So that's basically my justification. I mean, even if he doesn't get anything, I would rather collect the information one more game week and then make the transfer next week. Eventually, my defensive targets are actually the Newcastle boys, right? Who I don't want to bring in this week because they're playing Brentford, a very good attacking team. So that looking at the longer term, I just cannot justify that either. And so on, we already spent a lot of time before, so I don't want to talk about that again. But yeah, it's I would say 95% likely that I'm just rolling this game with staying with this team. Let's go to Wrangler's team because our teams are pretty similar. Wrangler, you want to read out your team, and then we can talk about
Yeah,
suggestions
it's
from Zito.
very much similar team, right? Except I think I have Starling, while you have Madison, right? I think otherwise
Mhm.
it's a
First 11
very
is same. Yep.
first 11 is very yeah,
Actually, the
exactly
whole
same.
rest of the team is pretty similar
Same,
too. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, I mean,
coincidentally.
I don't have any Spurs covers, right? So and I also was like, like on your boat that okay, should I get Son or should I get Madison, right? And as I said, like I like Madison pick here, but again, home to I remove Mbumo, right? I mean, if you think just based on the fixture, right, game week 5, but again, we know what Mbumo can do, and his fixture next weeks are also good, right? So um I can, I mean, again, I have only one free transfer, and I am also planning to roll here and gathering more information for the next week. I can do like Rico Henry to Udogi, and again, I can bench Estupinan, or I can directly sell Estupinan to Udogi, right? Or even I can get from Udogi to, Estupinan to directly Trippier as well here. But again, I
Mhm.
would like to assess, as you mentioned too, right, that we don't know about Newcastle, how they're gonna be, and against Brentford, it's not the best matchup, right, for at least defensively.
Mhm.
Now another thought is basically getting Son in place of either Rashford or Bruno, but I don't think I'm gonna do that, just because I thought Man United fixture actually turning good
Yep.
from game week 5. So I think I'm most likely rolling. That's what I'm thinking right now, and then we'll see what we do next week. So.
Okay.
But what would you do if you'd be in my? I mean, are you gonna get any Spurs boys here, or what would we do?
No,
You'd be doing?
no, just I would just ride the boat, right? Just ride out the storm at least for this game week. I mean,
You
if
guys are
you
team
had
are same. You should not answer each one's question. Probably I should answer.
Oh
no,
yeah,
no,
absolutely.
he was asking whether I would buy like a Madison for Starling. I think that's what he was asking. But yeah, I was going to ask
No
you, ZD.
medicine for
Yeah,
Sterling.
yeah.
No
What are
medicine.
your suggestions for our teams?
No, I mean no medicine for Sterling because you just bought a Sterling. Yeah, I mean you just probably needs to take that in the chin. But probably defensive transfer could be. But again, Henry's fixture, I think it turns out very good. Like next few weeks.
Mhm.
They're
Otherwise,
they're playing Everton next week, yeah, at home.
yeah, otherwise Henry to Uduji made sense, but the thing is, as I mean, you said, yeah, I also checked their fixtures, upcoming fixtures. Henry's fixture is very good. It's really
Mhm.
playable, but probably it could be question for Stupinan. But I mean, you guys already said about it, like he can give an attacking return, and I do think. Spurs might concede, but UDG is for only. I think I took him for attacking returns, but you cannot expect all the time attacking returns from the defenders, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's fine probably to roll.
Yep.
But
That's right.
for the Son Madison, I think you have to consider one of the United boys and or Arsenal, but it doesn't make sense actually
Okay.
because Bruno and
Let's
Rashford's team is very good. Matchup is very good. Yeah,
yeah.
so
Let's
I
move
have
on to your team. Yeah, I want to read it out. Yeah.
Turner, Johnston, Chilwell, Saliba, and Uduji, and Rashford, Foden, Saka, Mbeumo, Madison, and Jackson Haaland. Haaland is a captain. Stupinan is in bench. Yeah, so I am little bit confused about Stupinan and Saliba, but probably I'll just play Saliba because Everton they might score this time because I'm playing Saliba, but usually they don't score that much. So, but I will take a chance against probably attack versus. I mean, Stupinan is for attacking return and Saliba is for defensive return, but probably we'll go with Saliba. And another thought was like probably Ford into Son, but as we already said about it with the upcoming fixtures, I mean, I was thinking at one transfer is like Foden to Son, and probably next game week it would be Jackson to Alvarez because feels like Alvarez has a higher like he usually he's returning good than Foden, not only just previous game weeks, but seems like he's the second striker role playing, right? So was thinking about, but seems like, I mean, it it might go wrong, right? So
Yeah.
rather if I have two FT, probably I can assess more and probably take Bruno because I actually want Bruno at some point. I think this was the week, or probably next week would be a good week, like if we have more info. And obviously, I want a Newcastle asset next game week. So I think in that case, probably rolling is a good idea, unless we get some leak,
Like
some
regarding Foden, most
yeah,
likely.
regarding
Yeah.
Foden or say any other assets.
Mhm.
In that case, I might do transfer, but otherwise I will just roll. Yeah,
Who do you sell Foden for if you do get the lead?
it will be
Person.
Son. Like if in this game week Foden bench, then it will be Son because I
Okay.
mean I will not take Bruno probably. I mean I will just go to fixture play. I know it will be the bad shape, but again we'll try to get maximize, and probably next week I will
Yep.
reassess. But I think Foden will start. I don't see him getting benched. Do you guys will you guys play Saliba? Uh,
I think
Estupinan?
I would. Yeah. If I had Saliba, I would play him over Stupinian. Yes.
Yeah, yep. Otherwise, I was thinking about Madison captaincy, but not that much thought actually I gave. Feels like
Mhm.
Haaland is a safe captain anyway.
Yeah, I think we were talking about it, right? Just the ceiling part of it. Haaland's ceiling
Mhm.
is just so much higher than Madison. Son would make sense because his ceiling is there, right? Madison, despite how good of an FPL asset he is, Haaland's ceiling is just insanely high, right? So it's yeah, I don't recommend going against Haaland for Madison at least. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Anything else that you guys want to talk about that we didn't cover? All right. If
No,
not,
good luck to you guys.
Yep.
yep. Same to
I,
you.
I, I have to hide behind the sofa during I mean, actually, all the games are at 10 a.m. our time. I think all the good
Yeah,
games.
most of the important games are at the same time. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Usually, when these games happens, like we want to hide bench sofa, I feel like those things does not happen actually. Usually, reverse thing happens. Like say,
That's great.
Sheffield won, probably Spurs 1 or 0. I mean, which is like
Anything can happen.
quite unlikely. Feels like, but it might happen. That's the
Yeah,
beauty
It's
of
football, right?
yeah,
I mean, more than
yeah,
FPL, it's football, first of all,
yeah,
right? So, the
yep,
unpredictable things do happen in football. So,
yep.
yeah, we can all expect for that. Hopefully, Madison gets in something in there because at least both
That is
we
clean
two
sheet.
have him. Yeah,
Clean sheet
yeah,
point.
at least something, whatever.
Yeah,
Richarlison
Um,
scores in 94 minute 1-0.
yeah, as long as both Madison and Sterling score, all three of us good, right?
yeah.
So
Good.
we'll be happy with that. But yeah, good luck to both of you. We'll come back with our game week 5 review video sometime next week, midweek, maybe Monday or Tuesday, sometime like that. We'll announce that soon. Again, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and we'll come back with more content soon. Thank you, everyone. Good luck, Wrangler and ZD.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye
Good luck.
bye.